All right, strap yourselves in because we are going deep into Attack on Titan today.
Yeah.
But not just like a regular recap or anything.
Yeah.
We've got this
Yeah.
super interesting Chinese language analysis.
Yeah.
And it really gets into
It does.
how the story uses satire to kind of make us question like everything.
Everything.
Heroes, villains.
Yeah.
Even the nature of truth itself.
Absolutely.
So if you've ever like looked at authority and been like, I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, I bet I know what's going to happen next.
Right.
This is the deep dive for you.
Yeah, the source is really fascinating and how it breaks down those kind of straightforward narratives that we're used to.
Yeah.
Because it starts...
So classic.
Right.
Yeah.
Humanity versus monsters.
Totally.
Walled city. Giant humanoid titans just eating people.
Yeah.
Humanity's last stand.
Yeah.
It's all very familiar.
Total end of the world, fight for survival vibes.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
But then, as the source points out, the story quickly starts toning with those expectations.
Messing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the big turning point is when our protagonist, Eren Yeager, gets the ability to turn into a Titan himself.
Whoa, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so suddenly you have friendly Titans.
Oh.
And the lines between good and evil get really blurry.
Yeah, totally.
And it really forces us to rethink, like,
wait a minute.
everything we thought we knew about this threat.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Yeah, let's unpack this.
So the source reveals the truth about these Titans.
Right.
They're not just mindless monsters, right?
No.
They're humans
Yeah.
who've been transformed. And then we learn about the Eldian people, their connection to the Titans, and then there's a whole world beyond the walls that we didn't even know about.
Right. And then on top of that,
And then
there's this whole political like web
of intrigue.
driving this whole conflict.
Totally.
It's not just survival.
No.
It's about power, manipulation,
It's about
control. Like, who gets to tell the story?
who gets to control the narrative. Yeah.
And that's where I think
That's where it gets good.
the satire
Yeah.
really kicks in.
Absolutely.
Like, if you think about the Eldian Empire, they're controlling all the information
Within the walls.
within the walls.
Yeah.
They're basically making up history,
Fabricating it.
telling their people, hey, you're like the last of humanity.
The last remnants. Yeah.
It's so clearly a commentary on how narratives can be used to shape how we understand the world and manipulate us into believing what those in power want us to believe.
It's like they're saying, don't believe everything you hear, especially from the people in charge.
But it's not just the Eldian Empire, though, right?
No, not at all.
Like, the source points out,
Yeah.
the whole narrative of Attack on Titan is like
Plays with our expectations.
playing with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, take Eren Yeager.
Yeah.
Right.
Our hero.
He starts off classic hero, right?
Yeah.
Driven by revenge.
Well, it's to protect humanity.
Yes. Save everybody.
Yeah.
But his journey...
It gets dark.
Yeah. He becomes disillusioned, morally ambiguous.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think, as the source argues, he becomes this satirical representation of the hero archetype itself. Like, he turns into...
Like, he's supposed to be the good guy.
I know. He becomes this destructive force.
It makes you wonder, like...
Right. It makes us question.
What is a hero?
Yeah, what is heroism?
What's the cost of all this?
Yeah, what's the cost of these noble goals that we think we're pursuing?
It's like the story's asking, what if the hero is actually the biggest threat?
Right.
Which is kind of a crazy thing to think about.
I know, it's wild. And then there's the whole mind-blowing reveal that he can see the future.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
He's not just reacting to stuff, he's like...
He's influencing the past.
Influencing the past to make sure the future happens.
To make sure that future unfolds.
Yeah.
So it throws in this whole debate of free will versus determinism.
Whoa, right.
Right? If the future is set, do our choices really matter?
Yeah, I mean...
The big question.
But the source points out that even knowing the ending, Eren still goes through all this pain and loss.
He does, yeah.
And the moral struggles.
The struggle is real.
So even if he's playing a part in this, like, set narrative...
Predetermined narrative.
He's still really feeling it.
He's still experiencing all the weight of his choices. So it adds another layer of complexity to the satire.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just...
It's not just about questioning authority.
About questioning authority.
The stories we're told.
Yeah, the story is also about the nature of choice
Yeah.
What does it mean to know the future? What does it mean to make a choice?
If you already know what's going to happen.
When you know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And it's fascinating because Attack on Titan uses these, fantastical elements, right?
The Titans.
The Titans.
The warring nations.
The warring nation.
The whole memory manipulation thing.
The memory manipulation to actually expose these very real human
flaws
and tendencies.
Our desire for power.
Yes.
Our fear of the other.
Our inability to forgive.
Yeah, our tendency to just keep making the same mistakes over and over again.
Right.
It's all right there.
It's all there.
Laid bare.
On the surface.
Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror.
It's a mirror.
To ourselves and maybe not liking what we see.
And maybe not liking what we see.
Exactly.
And that's the power of satire, right?
Yes,
it makes us
look at ourselves.
Look at ourselves.
Question what we think we know.
Question our assumptions.
Yeah.
And maybe even laugh.
Laugh at ourselves a little bit.
At how ridiculous we are.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established Attack on Titan.
Not your typical
hero story.
story.
It's got all these layers of satire that make us really question everything. Everything.
Yeah.
But what I think is really trippy.
Oh, yeah.
Is how the source connects all of this to the real world.
To our world.
Like, this isn't just a fantasy story.
It's not just escapism.
Right.
Like, what do you think?
I completely agree. It's like the source is saying, this is a mirror to our own societies, our own ways of thinking.
Think about how, history is written by the winners.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or how governments and the media, they can spin things. They can spin things to fit their agenda. Their agenda is.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what the Eldian Empire is doing.
Right, that fabricated history within the wall.
It's like a giant warning sign. Like
giant flashing lights.
Don't just blindly believe what you're told.
Question everything.
Especially from the people in charge.
Especially from authority.
But it goes deeper, right?
Deeper than that?
Yeah.
The revelation that the Titans...
I mean, these are supposed to be monsters.
Pure monsters.
Yeah.
The ultimate other.
The ultimate other. Yeah. But they're actually human.
But they're just humans.
Yeah.
I mean...
And it changes everything.
It completely flips the script.
And the source really highlights this.
It does.
As a way to say it like, hey, this is how we dehumanize our enemies.
That's how it starts.
Yeah.
That's how we justify doing terrible things.
Oh, they're not really human, so it's okay. It's okay to do whatever we want.
And this happens over and over again.
Throughout history.
Throughout history, yeah.
Constant.
Attack on Titan takes it even further.
It does.
By showing how easily these dehumanizing stories...
These narratives...
can be used to, control entire populations.
Absolutely.
Think about the Eldians inside the walls.
Right.
They're taught to be afraid of Titans.
They're terrified.
Hate them.
Conditioned to hate them. And they don't even realize they're descended from them.
Right.
It's crazy. It's this chilling reflection of how propaganda can warp our perceptions and just create these cycles of hatred and violence.
Yeah, and that's cyclical nature of conflict.
That's another key element.
That the source points out.
That the source picks up on.
We see it between the Eldians and the Marleyans, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're locked in this...
Generations long.
Struggle
for power.
Yeah.
But it's not just nations, though, is it? It happens within families, too.
Totally. Like Eren and Zeke.
Yeah.
His brother.
They're both inherit this
legacy of their father's choices.
Yeah, of their father.
And they're both trying to break free from this cycle of violence.
And it's almost like the story is saying...
It is.
That history isn't just something that happened a long time ago.
Right. It's alive. It's here.
Yeah.
It's influencing us.
It's shaping
our future.
Yeah.
And I think that's by using these larger-than-life elements.
Yeah.
The Titans.
Yeah.
The warring nations.
Yeah.
This whole memory manipulation thing, Attack on Titan, is really magnifying these very real human flaws and making them impossible to ignore.
Right. It's satire.
It's satire.
On a huge scale.
On a grand scale.
Okay. But I want to talk about Eren again.
Oh, Eren.
Your hero. Our hero. Yeah.
Who ends up choosing... choosing this path of mass destruction. He basically...
He wipes out
most of humanity.
How
does the source deal with that?
I know.
With the whole satire thing.
Yeah. It's dark.
That's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Even for a story that's already pretty heavy.
I know. That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because by subverting the traditional hero's journey. Attack on Titan isn't just satirizing, corrupt authorities. Warmongering nations.
Warmongering nations.
It's satirizing the very concept of heroism itself.
Okay.
Right.
So Eren's whole...
his descent into darkness.
Yeah, descent into darkness makes us ask, what do we really expect from our heroes? And our good intentions.
Right, our noble goals?
Noble goals.
Always enough.
Always enough.
To justify what it takes to get there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
But in Eren's case, those intentions, even if they were good in the beginning, they get twisted. And they lead to this horrible outcome.
And it's just devastating.
It's devastating.
Yeah. And the source is kind of suggesting that Eren's desire for freedom, which we understand.
We can understand it.
Like, we get it.
Get it.
We all want to be free.
We want to be free.
But it becomes so absolute for him that he justifies wiping out almost all of humanity to achieve it.
To achieve it. And that's
a problem.
That's a little problem.
It's a big problem.
It's a little problematic.
A little problematic.
Yeah.
Right. It's tragic.
It is.
And I would even say absurd.
Yeah.
This interpretation of,
of the hero's journey.
The hero's quest for liberation.
Yeah.
Takes it to a whole other level.
It's like, is that really liberation?
Right. What is liberation?
Yeah.
And it brings us back to...
And this brings us back to free will versus destiny.
Free will versus destiny.
Determinism.
Yeah, determinism.
If he can see the future...
If he knows...
Yeah, if he knows...
That's going to happen.
And he's kind of orchestrating all of this...
Yeah.
Do his choices even matter?
Does he have any agency?
Does he have any say in this?
Or does he just...
Or is it all just
playing out a script?
A script, yeah.
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, it is.
And Attack on Titan doesn't give us an easy answer.
Right.
It presents this world where free will and determinism seem to kind of coexist.
Coexist, yeah.
He can see the future, yes.
He can see it.
But he still feels...
But he feels it.
All the emotional weight.
The weight of his choices.
Of his choices.
He still feels pain.
He feels pain.
Loss.
Loss, regret.
Regret.
It's in those moments of vulnerability that the satire becomes even more powerful.
More powerful. Because it's not just a thought experiment about choice.
It's not theoretical.
It's not theoretical here.
It's about how we deal with the burden of knowledge.
The burden of knowledge.
Right. The consequences of our action.
Our consequences.
And just what it means to be human.
To be human.
Even when it seems like the outcome is already decided.
Yeah.
Like, that's deep.
That's heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
And the source argues that this internal struggle that Eren goes through is itself a commentary.
On what it means to be human.
On the human condition.
Yeah.
We may not be able to see the future.
Right.
But we all carry.
We all carry that weight.
The weight of our choices.
Yeah.
And we all wrestle with that question of how much control.
Control do we really have?
Do we really have over our own destinies?
Right.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
So what do we take away from all of this?
Yeah.
Attack on Titan is making us think.
Yeah.
But what's the message?
What's the message? What do you think?
Well, I think it's definitely urging us to be cautious.
Cautious.
About just accepting any story we hear.
Yeah.
Especially from people in authority.
People in charge, yeah.
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 To recognize how dangerous it is to dehumanize other people.
Yeah.
And the allure of simple answers.
Simple answers.
To complex problems.
Right.
Because there aren't always simple answers.
No, not always.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to acknowledge.
And to really understand.
This fact that conflict.
Conflict just keeps happening.
Keeps happening.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
And to try to break free from these patterns.
Yeah, these patterns.
Of violence and oppression.
Of violence and oppression, yeah.
That have haunted us for centuries.
Yeah.
To look for a different way.
A different path.
Even if we don't know what that path is yet.
Even if we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's a powerful message.
It's a powerful message.
Especially given what's going on in the world today.
Given the state of the world, yeah.
Right.
But there's one thing we haven't talked about yet.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, something that the source points out.
Okay.
As a key element.
Key element of
Attack on Titan's success.
Attack on Titan's success.
And that's humor.
Humor?
The author of the source, he specifically notes that all good manga needs a strong female character.
Okay.
And that the most popular character should not be the protagonist.
Interesting.
He seems pretty happy.
Does he?
He seems very pleased.
He's okay.
That he's achieved both of those things.
He's achieved both.
In Attack on Titan.
In Attack on Titan. Interesting.
Which is interesting because we haven't really talked about...
We haven't touched on any of that. At all. Well, maybe that's a whole other deep dive.
Maybe that's for another time.
Yeah.
But I think it does highlight an important point.
What's that?
That even with all the darkness...
All the darkness, the heaviness...
The heavy stuff...
Yeah.
The
satire...
Attack on Titan doesn't take itself too seriously.
Right.
There are moments of humor.
Moments of humor, yeah.
Absurdity.
Yeah, absurdity.
That help balance it out.
The
heavy themes.
Right.
And it makes the story more engaging.
More engaging, yeah.
More thought-provoking.
More thought-provoking.
Because you can't just be doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom all the time.
All the time.
Right. You need those moments.
You need a little bit of light. To
To
appreciate the dark.
Yeah. It's like a reminder that even when we're dealing with these big, complex issues, it's okay to laugh.
It's okay to laugh.
To find moments of levity.
To find the levity in the middle of the chaos.
In the middle of the chaos. And it helps us keep perspective. And not get bogged down.
Yeah. Not get lost.
In all the despair.
In the despair.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about Attack on Titan.
We've talked about...
As this, like, big satire.
This big satire.
We've talked about the characters.
We've talked about the characters.
But what about the ending?
The ending. Oh, that's a big one.
A big one.
It's what everyone's talking about.
That's what everyone's talking about. The ending of this story really...
It really stuck with me.
It sparked so much debate.
Oh, yeah.
Among fans.
Well, so much debate.
Some people loved it.
Some people hated it. But no one can deny. It leaves an impression.
It leaves a mark.
Yeah.
And the source we've been talking about has some interesting insights into how that ending really ties everything together.
It's the culmination of all the satire. All things we've been talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't gotten to the end yet,
Spoiler alert.
Eren Yeager.
Our boy Eren.
He uses his power to see the future.
Right.
And he learns that humanity outside the walls is planning to attack Paradise Island.
They're coming.
Where the Eldians have been living.
They're coming for Paradise.
Yeah. And his solution is to basically
become the bad guy.
Become the ultimate villain. He unleashes the rumbling. This apocalyptic event.
Colossal Titans.
Where colossal Titans just march across the world. Destroying everything. It's shocking.
It's a shocker.
Even for a story as crazy as Attack on Titan.
Right. You're like, wait,
the hero's committing genocide?
What's happening?
What's happened? But the source argues that this is the genius of the ending. It doesn't give us a simple, happy ending.
It's not tied up with a bow.
No.
It's not clean. Yeah.
No.
It's messy.
Yeah. And even after all that destruction, after Eren sacrifices himself, the cycle of violence, it doesn't actually end.
Right.
The world is in ruins.
Oh, yeah.
And the characters that are left, they're left to pick up the pieces and grapple with the consequences of what Eren did.
It's bleak.
It is.
But it makes you think.
It does make you think, yeah.
Like, what was the point of it all?
Right.
Did anything really change?
And
those are the questions.
I think those are the questions.
That the source wants us to wrestle with.
I think so, too.
It's like Attack on Titan isn't about giving us answers or solutions to this problem of conflict. It's more about...
It's more about using satire.
Yeah, using satire.
To expose those flaws.
To show us, like, how we're thinking wrong.
How we keep justifying violence. How we keep perpetuating hatred. It's not about the happy ending.
No.
It's about
confronting
the messy reality.
The uncomfortable reality. Yeah.
Even if it's hard.
Even if there are no easy answers.
Yeah, even if there's no easy solution.
The satire is in the lack of resolution.
Whoa.
Right.
Okay.
Eren trying to break the cycle with violence.
Yeah.
But he just ends up continuing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
It's a cautionary tale.
It's a cautionary tale about how seductive power can be.
Yeah. And how dangerous it is. To think that one person or one thing that we do,
one action,
can just fix everything,
can magically fix the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
The
world's more complicated.
The world's much more complicated than that.
Yeah. But there's this one detail at the end
that
the source points out. The seagull
The seagull.
Yeah, remember the seagull?
Yeah, it keeps popping up.
It's this recurring image.
Throughout the story.
Yeah.
And in the last scene, as Mikasa, Eren's close friend, she's mourning him at his grave.
Yeah.
A seagull lands on his grave.
On his grave.
And she whispers, "Arigato."
Arigato.
Which means thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a small moment.
It is.
But it's so powerful.
It is so powerful.
And the source interprets it as a sign of hope.
Oh, wow.
Like a little flicker of light.
Well, a glimmer.
A glimmer.
Yeah.
Amidst all the darkness.
So even though the cycle keeps going.
Even though that cycle of violence is still there.
Yeah.
There's still the possibility for gratitude. Forgiveness. Maybe even healing. Yeah.
So we've gone from giant man-eating monsters.
I know, right?
To a deep dive into the human mind.
The human psyche.
Yeah.
Talking about free will, determinism, the never-ending cycle of conflict.
Yeah.
And somehow we ended up with hope.
And all of that through the lens of satire.
Through the lens of satire.
It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
I think that really speaks to the power of Attack on Titan.
As a story.
As a work of art.
Yeah.
It's not just a fun story.
Right.
It's a reflection on what it means to be human.
Yeah.
It's challenging us to really think about what we believe.
It's a call to action.
It is a call to action.
That's like it's saying, hey, the stories we tell ourselves, the things that we choose to believe,
the narratives,
they can shape our choices.
They shape our choices. Yeah. They shape the world.
They shape the world that we create.
The world that we create, yeah.
And even when things seem really bad.
When things are dark.
When it's dark.
Yeah.
There's always hope.
Always hope.
If we're willing to look for it.
If we're willing to look for it.
Absolutely. Messy.
It's messy.
It really is.
Yeah, and even after all that destruction,
right.
After Eren sacrifices himself,
that cycle of violence
keeps going.
It doesn't really end.
Doesn't really end.
The world's in ruins.
The world is in ruins, yeah.
And the characters that are left,
yeah,
they've got to pick up the pieces and figure out.
Right, and grapple with
what to do now.
The consequences of all of that.
It's bleak.
It's a bleak ending.
It's a bleak ending.
Yeah.
But it really
makes you think.
Yeah. Like, what was the point of all that suffering?
What was the point of all that?
All the loss.
Did anything really change?
Did anything really change?
You know?
And I think
those are the questions that the source wants us to be asking, like to really wrestle with.
Like Attack on Titan isn't about giving us those answers.
It's not about tying it all up in a neat little bow.
No, it's not.
And giving us the solution to the problem of conflict.
It's more about...
That's more about using satire.
Yeah, using satire to kind of...
Oh, no.
Show us how we're thinking about things wrong.
How we're approaching things wrong, how we keep justifying...
The violence.
The violence, yeah.
And how we keep perpetuating this.
The hatred, the othering.
The hatred, yeah.
You know...
It's not about giving us a happy ending.
It's
about confronting.
It's about confronting this...
The hard stuff.
This really uncomfortable reality.
The uncomfortable reality, yeah. Even if it's difficult.
Even if there are no easy answers.
Yeah. Even if there are no easy answers.
But sometimes there aren't easy answers.
Sometimes there aren't.
And the satire lies in that lack of resolution.
The lack of resolution.
Like Eren tries to break the cycle with violence.
He thinks that's the answer.
He thinks that's the answer.
Yeah.
But it just ends up continuing the cycle.
He just ends up continuing it.
Yeah. And it's a cautionary tale.
It's a huge cautionary tale.
About how seductive power can be.
Yeah.
And how dangerous it is to think that one person or one single action
can just fix everything.
Can just magically fix the world.
Yeah. Magic wand. It's all better.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
The world's a lot more complicated than that.
Much more complicated than that.
But there is one detail at the end that the source points out.
Okay.
The seagull.
The seagull, yeah.
Do you remember the seagull?
Yeah, it shows up a few times.
It's this recurring image throughout the story. Yeah. And at the very end.
At the very end.
In the last scene as Mikasa. Eren's close friend.
Yeah.
She's at his grave mourning him.
Mourning Eren.
And a seagull lands on his grave.
On the grave.
And she whispers, Arigato.
Arigato. Which means...
thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a simple moment.
It is.
But it's so powerful.
It is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and the source interprets it as a sign of hope.
Oh, hope.
Like a little flicker of light in all the darkness.
A little glimmer, yeah.
A little glimmer.
Yeah.
In the midst of all that destruction and loss and pain.
So even though the cycle hasn't been broken?
Even though that cycle of violence is still spinning.
There's still a chance for...
There's still a possibility for gratitude.
Gratitude.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Maybe even healing.
Maybe even some healing.
Yeah.
So we've gone from these giant man-eating monsters to this deep exploration of what it means to be human.
The human psyche.
The human psyche, yeah.
We've talked about free will, determinism, this never-ending cycle of conflict.
And somehow we ended up at hope.
At hope. And all through the lens of satire. Which is pretty amazing.
Which is incredible.
When you think about it.
Yeah. And
I think that speaks to the power of Attack on Titan.
As a
work of art. It's not just a fun story. It's a reflection of who we are.
Of what it means to be human.
It challenges our assumptions. It makes us question our beliefs.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately, I think, a call to action.
A call to action?
Yeah. It's like saying, hey, pay attention to the stories you tell yourselves.
Yeah.
The narratives that you buy into.
The narratives that we believe.
Because they shape your choices.
They really shape our choices.
And they shape the world we create.
The world that we create.
And even when things seem really dark, when things are at their bleakest.
When things seem hopeless.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
If you're willing to look for it.
If we're willing to look for it.
Exactly.
So there you have it, folks.
There you have it.
We've gone deep.
We went deep.
Into the world of Attack on Titan. Explored the satire.
Twists and turns. Philosophical questions.
The philosophical questions.
The hope.
And maybe even found a little bit of hope along the way.
Maybe just a little.
Just a little bit, yeah.
A little glimmer.
Attack on Titan is a story that really stays with you.
It really does.
It makes you think.
It's thought-provoking.
And
it stays with you.
Yeah. So, until next time, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep questioning.
And keep diving deep into the stories that matter.